I'm going to map out how I bought $1.3 million in commercial real estate without banks, without credit in rural Oregon, which you can do this in any city. I don't care if it's a big city. And the cool thing is here, y'all, the cool thing is you can do this. Anybody can do this no matter of your age, how much money you have, what location you are. I'm going to map out how I've done it. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to walk you through, and I'm going to bring up my iPad, 3 properties I've acquired over the years that I've done without banks, without mortgages, without credit checks, any of those types of things. And kind of the mindset shifts that I've gone through over the years to be able to stack up millions of dollars in real estate and equity without really a lot of risk. And I think the biggest thing is there's a massive mindset shift that we have to go through in order to even believe, number one, that we can do this, believe, number one, that it's possible. And then number two, there's some simple steps. So I'm going to walk you through both in this video. I'm going to walk you through the mindset shift that I had to go through as a 21-year-old kid buying my first property, no money down with no banks, and how that all worked. I had no money, no credit, nothing. And I was 21 years old, looked like a baby face, how I did it then and how I do it today. In my business, right? So I'm going to bring up the iPad, and you guys are going to be rewarded with my amazing award-winning art over here. Okay, so we're going to walk through the $1.3 million journey here. Now, is this all of my real estate? No, it's not. But I only wanted to include some of the properties that literally didn't require any bank loan at all. Most of my properties don't have bank loans on them. Some do. Okay, so these are 3 that are going to be great case studies that if you're looking to start to build a rental portfolio, or you're wondering, how can I in 10, 20 years have millions of dollars in equity for retirement and cash flow without being a millionaire today to have enough money to buy properties? So I'm going to walk you through how to do that. Okay, so there's 3 properties we're going to be talking about. Property number 1, it's a 4-unit building. Okay, it's in a small town. And this property here is a two 1-bedroom units and 2 2-bedroom units. Okay, so it's up by a college. I've owned this one for over 20 years. I bought this one when I was 21 years old. Okay, 21 years old, and I still own it today. All right. The next one over here is kind of a commercial / retail. Okay. And this is downtown, small town Oregon, downtown Roseburg. This is commercial / retail. And this one over here is retail / residential. Okay. So the thing that's in common with all of these I'm going to be walking you through is that they all are bought without a bank loan. And one's going to walk you through how I did it so you can replicate this as well. Now, I'm going to give a couple disclaimers. Can you buy every property or investment property this way? No, I can already totally picture comments below. I can totally picture people saying, yeah, Trevor, you can't do that with this property or that property. I already talked to a seller and they wouldn't be willing to do what you're talking about. Yeah, most sellers are not going to be open to doing what I'm talking about here, but many are. Far more sellers than you believe would ever do this. We'll do this. Okay. And these are 3 real sellers, 3 real examples I'm going to walk you through. Another thing you might be saying is, well, Trevor, of course, you're a real estate guy and you already have millions of dollars. And of course you can do this, or you have this big track record. Guys, I was 21 years old when I got this first property. I didn't have any of those things. Okay. So those are all limiting beliefs you're bringing to the conversation. I want you to eliminate those limiting beliefs, eliminate the how, and suspend disbelief, because this is possible. That's the first step. Is you got to understand and recognize it's possible, because if you don't believe it's possible for you, none of the steps I'm about to walk you through will matter at all. Okay. So I can tell you, no matter your circumstance on the other end of this thing, it is possible for you to do this. Okay, I believe in you, and there's certain steps. Will you need to get over a fear? Probably. Will you need to learn some things? Yes. Will you need to do some things that are highly uncomfortable? Yes. Will you need to get okay and familiar with rejection? Yes. Will you make mistakes? Yes. All of those things are yeses. Okay, but can you do this? Also, yes. All right. So let's walk through this, guys. Once again, there's the 4 properties. I'm going to walk you through the value of the property when I bought them. I'm going to walk you through the value today, what cash flow currently comes from them, and how I think about them. One last disclaimer. Is this video going to be the end all be all best real estate investing video of all time on podcast or YouTube? The answer is no to that one. Okay. I've got good friends like Pace Morby, who is a far better guy to learn all this stuff from. All I'm sharing is my personal experience. Okay. I'm not saying I'm the best real estate investor. I'm saying this is what I've done to be able to do this. And if you want to do something like this, I'm going to teach you what I've done. All right. So hopefully this is useful for you. So the core principles that I follow that I really want to encourage you to look at, the core principles are this. Okay. The first thing is I want to be looking for a type of property that I think is going to have more value in the future than today. Okay, so any of these properties I look at, taking down in the way that I'm going to walk you through, I always go, okay, do I think that the story in the area this property is, or the story that this type of property is going to get in more demand over the years? Do I feel that the town that property is in is going to be growing, is going to have some good things happening over the next 20 years? And I'm not thinking the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm literally thinking the next 20 to 30 years. I'm thinking big time, long term on this. Okay. I want to know, does the narrative of this property lend itself to becoming more valuable or less valuable over time? Okay, if a property's in an area that's becoming a ghetto, then the narrative of that is likely that it's going to be less valuable over time. If it's an area that's moving from single family rent or single family ownership to rental, then the value of that property is probably going to go a little bit down over time. Now, if it's a growth area or it's a type of property that's in demand and you can see it being in demand for a long time, and or the town is just really busting at the seams or it has potential for that, and then great, it meets the narrative checkbox number one. The second core principle that I follow when I'm looking for these types of properties is the owner has significant equity. Okay, you'll notice with each one of these properties that I go through, each one of them, this would not have worked if those owners did not have significant equity. So if I'm working with an owner who has only owned the property 2, 3, 4 years maybe, and they have a bank loan on it, then this is likely not going to happen, not going to work for that. You're probably going to need to come in with cash on that property or a bank loan or assume their loan if able. But this is really only working in my rule if they have 70, 80% or more equity in that property. They own it free and clear, are the best ones, but they have 70 to 80% equity. Okay, and you'll know why here in a second. The next thing that's a rule of mine, once again, this might not be a rule of everybody's, it's a rule of mine, is the property must cash flow from day one as it currently is today. Now, when I've gotten in trouble in properties is when I bought a property and I knew that it could cash flow if I made some updates and adjustments. And some of those updates and adjustments were more expensive than I expected. And then it made it so it took a lot longer to cash flow. And all of a sudden what happens is you start to put financial pressure on yourself. You start to have negative cash flow, which you've got to pay for somehow. You've got to pay for out of your bank account. So it means it's straining other income resources to pay for this thing that's sucking the life out of you. Okay. So rule for me there is the property must cash flow positively after all taxes, after everything, utilities, everything from day one, not month 6, not after I do these repairs, from day one. Okay. The next thing is these properties are ones I'm going to ask the owner to carry the note in. Okay, that's my just general play. Every single property I make an offer on, I ask if they will carry the note. Now, I have acquired properties where the owner didn't carry the note. I have a couple where there are bank loans on them at really, really good interest rates. I have ones that are free and clear, but these ones in particular all have what's called a seller carry note. Okay, so if we do, what's in common about these? They all have a seller carry. No, what is seller carry? Seller carry is where the seller is the bank, where you don't have to go into US Bank or Wells Fargo or Umpqua Bank and say, hey, I have a property I'm looking to buy. I'd like a loan. Because with banks, what they're going to do, they're going to check your credit, which if you have good credit, then that's not a bad thing. But if you have bad credit, then you're SOL trying to get that loan. Number 2, they're gonna charge fees. They're gonna charge origination fees and all these other fees that add up that you've got to pay in some way, shape, or form. Okay, they're going to charge interest rate, of course, and oftentimes it's going to be a higher interest rate than what you can get through the seller of the property. And also, they're going to charge you time. What do I mean by charging you time? I mean, you can't just go into a bank today and close on the property in 2 weeks. It's probably going to take you 30 days, 60 days to be able to do that. They're going to probably require an inspection, which costs you money. If it's commercial properties, it costs you a lot more than residential. And they're also going to require an appraisal for the property, which for commercial, that might be into the thousands of dollars for an appraisal. Residential, it might be sub $1,000. Right. But all those things stack up. So I get to avoid appraisals. I get to avoid inspections, like official expensive inspections. I get to negotiate my interest rate. I have no fees on the loan. I get flexibility with my lender because I know them, or I've gotten to know them during this process. Everything's better. Okay. So the seller is the bank. The seller is the bank, but I don't have to do any of the things that make it a pain in the butt to work with the bank. Okay. So the next thing then with that is I will look for a 10-year minimum on those notes. I like ones that are longer. The longest one I've ever negotiated is a 30-year. Okay, a 30-year note is the longest I've ever negotiated on a seller carry note. But I've also had ones that are 20-year. I've had ones that were 10-year, 15-year. I've had ones that were 10-year with a 10-year balloon. So I'm paying interest only with a balloon. So I stack up my cash flow, invest it in things that are returning so I can pay off the balloon later. Okay. So I usually look for a minimum of a 10-year. If a down payment is required, which many times it is, I've only been able to do a property like this with absolutely no down payment a couple times. But the other properties required some type of a down payment from the seller. Okay. One of them, this one right here, which I'm gonna open up the prices on how I bought these properties right here. Okay, so this property here in the middle, or it's actually on the right side, that one required me to put $10,000 down. Okay, so on that one there, I did put in $10,000 of my own money, but you can see the leverage on that's insanely high because I only put 10 grand of my own money into a $360,000 property that cash flowed from day one, and now is worth a lot more. And I'm going to show you the value of what that's worth today. Okay, and so with that one was 10K. This one over here was a little bit bigger. Okay, this one over here was a little bit bigger. Was 50K, and then this one over here was also 10K. Okay, so I'm kind of running out of room. I thought I was going to be all fancy and like just showing all this cool stuff here for you guys, which I am, but I didn't plan out my spacing very well here. So let's go ahead and adjust this out, and I'm just going to open this up. Bam. We got that right there. So the values are there now. Okay. So this one here, 10K down payment, but this was with a private lender. And then this was with a private lender as well. Okay. So how does that work? Well, with a private lender, I can choose to not use my own money on this thing. So I didn't have any money into this deal, no money into that deal. I acquired that property, the 4 unit, for $172,000, $0 into that deal as a 21-year-old kid. It cash flowed from day one, and that property today is worth a good bit more. So how much more? Well, let's kind of show you what these properties are worth today. Okay, so today that property is worth $375,000. I have probably a $70,000 or $80,000 mortgage left on that. An owner carry, so 10 years left in the owner carry note. It's cash flowed every single month I've ever owned that property. And the cool thing is today, because rents have gone up and my costs have gone down in some of those areas, it's $1,800 a month in positive net cash flow after all expenses, $1,800 a month with this property here. Okay, zero money down. $10,000 from a private lender. I paid that private lender off in year 10 with the cash flow that this generated over those years. And now I've got whatever this is in equity. Like I said, it's about $75,000, $80,000 left on it. So I've got about $300,000 in equity on this property right now. Okay. With a cash flow of about $25,000 a year. All right. So now let's look at this one over here. The commercial or retail one right down the road is about 5 buildings over. I bought that one for $230,000, a seller carry note. Okay, brought in $50,000 from a private lender. I did choose to pay that private lender back a couple years into that loan. I wasn't intending on doing that originally, but I chose to because interest rates went up, and I was able to then take the money that I had invested, put it into this one to pay that high interest rate down. I paid that high interest rate down. So I was getting a better return on my cash by paying that high interest rate down than keeping it in this safe, liquid, high return savings account. Okay. So that property today is worth about 400K. And that one cash flows only $500 a month, but I've only owned that property for about 6 years. And so what's going to happen is rents are going to go up. Okay, rents are going to go up over time. And if we believe in a rent increase environment, I'm going to walk you through some math here. Okay, if we live in an environment and believe in an environment of rent likely going up in that area, that is how we start to see how these types of properties bring a lot of income and wealth over the long term. But we've got to be in it for the long term. Okay, so if you raise your rents only, and let's say your rent is starting at $1,000 a month. Okay, you've got rent starting at $1,000 a month. Okay, and let's say you raise your rents only 3% per year, which isn't all that much, 3% per year. Okay, by the end of 5 years, so 5 years, that rent is going to be about $1,159. Okay, so not a lot more than that, but that's more income, $1,159 after 5 years. Now, after 10 years, now this is where it starts to get exciting. I like the 10-year mark. You got to be in this for at least 10 years. Then we're talking $1,300 a month. Okay, and then at 20 years, all right, what are we talking? We're talking $1,800 a month. So with this property right here, originally I was only a net cash flowing a couple, $200, $300, $400 a month on this thing, on this property here. Now, 20 years in, it's popping $1,800 a month cash flow. Once that mortgage pays off on that 30-year note, it's going to be popping somewhere north of $2,500 a month in cash flow, free and clear, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. Guys, I didn't pay for any of this. My tenants paid for it. I didn't pay a dime for any of this cash flow, for any of this equity. My tenants paid for it. It's a free property, y'all. I just had to put a little bit of work and focus into it. Okay. So let me go back to my notes here. We'll kind of bring it home and dive into some of these principles. The last principle here is I want you to think long-term with these. So if you're thinking of flipping these 2, 3, 4 years out, if you're thinking of man, I'm going to be in this for 6, 7, 8 years, this strategy is not the strategy for you. With this part of my portfolio, I'm literally thinking 20 years out. I'm thinking 20 years out. I'm saying I'm building for the future, that in 10, 20 years, I'm going to have a bunch of cash flow. In 10, 20 years, millions of dollars of free and clear equity. 10, 20 years, these assets that can be sold, that can be leveraged, that can be whatever we want to do with them. I'm thinking in this part of my portfolio, 20 years out. Okay, because rents go up, mortgages get paid off, values go up. That's where the wealth and the cash flow comes from. And you end up getting free or virtually free properties in these cases. Okay. So how does this work to create wealth? Well, like I said, with each one of these properties, I have tenants in these properties. They're making money. They pay rent, a fair rent for a great piece of property. That money comes into me. I then pay all the expenses, all the taxes, my mortgage, all those things, and I'm left over with something at the end. Now, while my tenants pay down my mortgage for me, it adds to my equity pool. Okay, every single month I have more and more equity in these properties because my tenants pay the rent and to pay those equity, to pay those mortgages and increase my equity. Also, because rents go up over time, the value of the property goes up because when rents go up, your value of your property goes up. So that also adds on top of my equity. So I'm getting like a double whammy in a good way of equity growth. Tenants paying it down, and then the value increase as rents go up and as that area grows if you're investing in the right area. Okay. And then you also get the third benefit of your cash flow increasing over time. And so once again, if you're hoping to get rich off this in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, go watch another video. This is not it. Maybe flipping, wholesaling, starting a software company can help you get there. But I take my cash from my active business, my software company and my coaching. I take that and I put that into real estate and other investments for the long term. Okay. Like I said, you have to really be focusing long term, 10 years or more. You can generate millions of dollars in equity with these free and clear properties after 10 or 20 years. You negotiate with the seller, which is a whole nother video. This is more introducing you to the concept for them to carry the note. You bring in as little as possible to the down payment, depending on what helps meet the seller's goals. And the cool thing is, y'all, that this right here helps the seller meet their goals as much as you meet theirs. I'm paying retail I'm paying retail value for these. I'm not buying these at a drastic discount. So if you're thinking I'm going in there and offering drastic discounted values at these, I'm not. I'm paying retail. Okay, this is not me coming in at 40% of value and undercutting. I'm saying, great. What do you want from the property? If that value looks fair to me, I'll buy it for that value. But I need you to work with me on terms. And would you be willing to carry the note? Would you be willing to do? I'll always ask for a 20 or 25-year note. Okay, rarely will they say yes to that. Most of the time, they'll say 10 to 15. But I'll say, would you be willing to carry the note for 25 years? And I can then make sure that you get a fair, safe monthly payment. You don't have to deal with tenants anymore or repairs in the building. I'll take care of all that. And you get a safe return, a safe income every single month backed by this property. So if for some reason I decide to not fulfill my obligation and pay you the mortgage, which I've never missed a mortgage payment in my life for any of my properties, including my home and everything else, if that happened, then you would just be able to take the property back and all the equity that's in there, right? So they're protected, and I have a great deal. So this works amazingly well for everybody. So let me kind of recap how this went down, what it all looks like in the end here on the piece of paper. Okay, guys, 3 properties over the years. This is a 4-unit residential apartment building. This is a commercial and retail property with 2,000 square feet down below and about 1,000 square feet of other space up above. The down below rents for $2,500 a month. The up above rents for $1,000 a month. The same tenant is paying me for those. So they're paying about $3,500 a month on that property. Okay. Then over here, this one here is 6,000 square feet of retail on the downstairs and about 2,000 square feet of residential upstairs. And collectively, each one of those tenants is paying, around $1,000 to $1,500 a month. So we'll just round it out and we'll just say $4,000 a month on average from there. And we'll say upstairs is about $2,000 a month. Each one of those units weighs $1,000 a month in rent. So that's $6,000 a month in rent that's coming in to pay down this mortgage. And I had about $100,000 in renovation costs. So that is money I did choose to take out of my pocket to put in there to make apartment number 2 possible. It was a blank slate, and we're making that, unlocking that. That increased the value up over here to over $550,000. Is probably worth far more than that at this point. It's probably worth $600 to $700 if you look at the 1% rule right there. Okay, this one is currently break even. It's not making a ton of money right now, but it will. And then this one here is going up it's $500 a month positive cash flow. That one is going to be turning into $2,000 plus a month in cash flow within about 7 years. This one here is $1,800 a month in cash flow. That's going to be turning into $2,000 to $3,000 plus a month in less than 7 years. And we're going to be sitting on somewhere around $10,000 a month in positive cash flow after all expenses within the next 10 years. And we're going to be sitting on over $1.3 million, likely more with the value increasing over the years, but over $1.3 million in equity from those properties that didn't touch 1 cent of bank loan with. So hopefully this was valuable, guys. Let me know in the comments box if you want me to kind of break down more of these types of things. It could be crypto investments. It could be how I started software companies. It could be the financials behind software companies. Let me know, and I'll break these down to the best of my ability. Am I the world's expert in any of these things? No, but I'm just going to walk you through what I've done, what works for me. All right, guys. So map out a goal, then ask yourself, who owns the properties in my area that meets the criteria, and where do I go find that first one? Find that owner who has owned the property for a long time or has a lot of equity, and just talk with them. Find a fair price and say, hey, would you be willing to carry the note for this? And then start to find that common ground, work out a great deal with them, and start to build up these amazing assets over the long term. Now, guys, if you want to acquire more off-market properties, we actually help you do that with my software company, Carrot. So you can go to carrot.com if you're looking to acquire more off-market properties, whether they're residential single-family homes or self-storage facilities or mobile home parks or mobile homes or even multifamily. Go check out carrot.com if you want to build credibility online, generate more motivated house and property sellers through the internet. That's what we do. That's where I get my active cash to put it into real estate. And if you enjoy this podcast, let me know. Hit me with a comment here on YouTube and DM me on Instagram, guys. Trevor.mock on Instagram. Follow me, DM me. I check all those DMs. Would be absolutely joyed if you hit me up. Let me know where you're challenged, where I can help, and I would love to help you on your own journey. All right, guys, have an amazing rest of the week. Hit the subscribe button right now and leave a rating and review if you're listening to the podcast version of this. All right, guys, we'll talk soon.